The horror retrospective show.
Horror retrospective show.
The horror retrospective show.
Hello, lovelies. Today we are trying out something new. So we are doing a collaborative film discussion. We have Trenchy joining us today, and we are discussing 2016's The Dark Tapes. And Trenchy, for the audience members that are not familiar with you, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Trenchy. I have a channel called The Soulless Trenchcoat, and we just do random stuff over there. And yeah, I'd like to thank you, Cara, for having me on. This can be fun. It was an interesting film.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time and doing this.
No problem.
So let's see. I know the wraparound story, we kind of touched on that earlier. It was kind of weird, but was there, because I was confused with it, but was there anything in particular that did or didn't stand out as far as the wraparound?
I thought it was ambitious, and I thought it was interesting. Like, I thought it was an interesting concept. I just don't get how I just don't understand how they executed it. Like, it kind of makes no sense, but it was good. It was very well acted and stuff, and I had never seen anything like that before, so it was cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty weird one. Like, just giving a quick background on it, but I'm not really sure exactly. It's some sort of like a sleep experiment, I think, and then all of a sudden a demon shows up, and then people switch into an alternate dimension. So this is the story that's cut in between the other stories in this anthology film, but I got lost after a while in this.
Yeah, I think they were trying to study, like, sleep paralysis. People see, like, when you see like beings or shadow beings in your sleep and you can't move and stuff like that. But it was just, it was just weird. Like, it was weirdly done. Like, I like the idea of them saying that ghosts are interdimensional beings, but it's like, it was just weirdly done. Like, it made no sense how they got from point A to point B. It was cool though.
Yeah, it kind of like, I had to fall back on fringe theory for that one. I know there have been, I don't know how into fringe you are, but I know there have been theories where people that deal with paralysis, it's some sort of like a what do you call it, like a ghost or a demon presence that just kind of paralyzes them and kind of torments or takes over them. But this one, they really fleshed it out, and somehow I don't understand their science behind this, but somehow they kind of slipped into the in-between, to where the demon wasn't in our universe and they weren't in their universe. They just kind of slipped through a crack to where they were coexisting with this demon, even though I think it thought that it was being held captive until it realized that it had power over the situation.
Yeah, it's really weird because they kind of hint that there's another being involved, but it's like you never really find out what's going on. It's just like really what what is happening here? Things are just popping up and shit.
I tried to follow it as best I could, and then they really did go this weird direction. But I guess I'm pretty baffled with it. I think that's pretty much all I can share on that one, unless you had any other opinions or thoughts on that weird little wraparound story.
I feel like it could have been done better if they just like fleshed it out more and maybe added in like certain things, like a device or something, instead of it's just they're filming someone sleeping and all of a sudden they're in an alternate dimension now. Like, they never really explained that well. I feel like there could have been more equipment put in or something.
Yeah, it was a little vague, and I mean, it had potential, and yeah, I agree that they could have fleshed it out. And I imagine it's kind of more the style of this anthology film. Kind of one of the things that annoyed me was they had these video glitches every time the demon would show up that kind of looked like really bad filters that you could download off of the internet. But that was pretty much my only gripe about this one. But it had potential, but then it just confused me, and then it's kind of like, well, whatever, moving on.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like it was a very ambitious idea, but I think they kind of dropped the ball. But I'd say it's a decent segment. It's not life wasting or anything.
So actually, our first story beyond the wraparound would be the hunters and the hunted, and of course Monty, or the horror miser Monty G, was going to join us this evening. He couldn't make it, so he sent in a video sharing his quick thoughts on the hunters and the
Hello,
hunted.
Kara and Trenchy. Yes, it is me, the horror miser Monty G. I want to thank you guys for helping me participate in this nice little anthology film, because you know how much I love horror anthology films. This one called The Dark Tapes, and I'm going to talk about the segment called The Hunters and the Hunted. Now, in this particular piece right here, we have Karen and David. They're brand new homeowners move into this very unusual but very luxurious house, and everything seems perfect. Everything seems to be going well. But then all of a sudden, the minute that they move in, all weird starts to happen. There's sounds moving throughout the place. Furniture is getting moved all over the place. It's freaking Karen out. Then we find out that there's a secret that they have. And I won't reveal that here because I don't want to do any spoilers. And eventually, things just go from bad to worse, to the fact that they actually call in some paranormal guys. Yeah, paranormal. Next thing you know, you get Paranormal Activity vibe from this one. And they decide to go on ahead and place cameras throughout the place just to find out what this is, try to research it, to find out what's going on. And let's just say what we expect out of this one is kind of weird. I didn't even see this one coming. I think that's one of the reasons why, out of all the segments, but I did enjoy all the segments in this particular anthology horror series, but I like this one the most because what happens in this one, I didn't see coming. I like the twist. I like it when writers do something unexpectedly that you don't see coming. And I didn't see this one coming. And if you seen this particular segment, I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did. So there you have it. That is my segment for The Hunters and the Hunted. Truly did love this segment. And matter of fact, I love all the segments in this particular one. So for you horror guys out there, if you have not seen The Dark Tapes, check it out. I think you will like it. If I were to rate this one when it comes to found footage anthology films, it's right about there with VHS and VHS 2.
The twist on this one really wasn't too interesting for me, but just really quick. So this one is more, obviously it's a cam girl, so I don't know if that's still a big thing or not, but the story is there's this young girl who's moved away from home for the first time. She's started a same-sex relationship with a young lady. She's just kind of, I guess, experimenting, and to make a living, they do this cam girl type work in order to keep a roof over their heads. But what were your thoughts on this one?
I mean, it was decent. It wasn't bad, but I'd say, like, yeah, compared to the other stories, it was pretty bland. Like it was the most forgettable of of all the stories. Very basic.
Yeah, this one, it definitely could have been fleshed out a lot more. They do have that paranormal element to it as well.
Hmm.
Kind of, I don't think it was introduced very well. Kind of like this girl early on in the short story, we see her, she's talking to her ex-boyfriend, and it kind of, I get the impression that maybe she's being used or taken advantage of by this streetwise girl who's she's lived in a city longer, she knows the ropes, she's obviously
Hmm.
attracted to this other girl who is just kind of experimenting and not really sure if she's into girls. She's just kind of bi-curious. Honestly, I don't mind spoiling the twist on this one just because it's one of the weaker of the stories, but I didn't see it coming. Like, it was very confusing. They have like this contest on who's going to watch the private show that evening, and they choose a guy, and then there's this weird mind manipulation stuff going on. And I don't know, did that throw you off, or did it seem to flow well as far as how the story was presented?
It was very confusing. Like, it was really weird because there one moment it's like, okay, she's obviously herself and she's just telling this guy to do this, but then another moment she's telling him to do like something else. It's like, wait, what's going on? Like, they didn't really explain well that she was being like controlled or something. Like it just comes out of nowhere. It's really weird. Like I there's no like triggering moment. It just kind of happens.
Yeah, it's kind of like the other girls also controlling. I don't remember the characters' names, but I'll just refer to her as the naive one, the one who's going along with all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, and that's also why I kind of felt like maybe she was being manipulated, how she was talking about how they would go out drinking and then she would just kind of black out, and then they go on this weird tangent in the middle of the story talking about spirits, and how spirits is also another word for alcohol, and how, yeah, if you're under the influence you're more susceptible, you do a bunch of weird stuff. It kind of is like you're possessed or in control of something else under the influence. But
Mm-hmm.
they really took it to a different extreme with this one. Like she really was under the influence of a what would you say, kind of like a demonic entity.
Yeah, that's what yeah, like I guess that's what it was supposed to be, but it was just very weird, and the mind control aspect, it all of it just felt like out of nowhere and just kind of random, like just very strangely done, not really well explained.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to like this one, and I tried really hard to follow it and understand it for what they were presenting, and it's clever. Like, this is a, they're not silly stories, this anthology. I mean, altogether as a whole, it's a pretty smart movie. You can really read between the lines and pick up stuff, but some of the stories really weren't strong, or maybe we're just not the target audience they were expecting. Maybe somebody more into fringe to catch on to certain things. That's the impression that I get. I don't know if you feel the same, or what your thoughts on that are.
I don't know much about Fringe, but I will say, yeah, the I feel like all the stories were pretty smart, but like I don't feel like this one was a bad story. It's just I just couldn't like keep up with what was going on. Like maybe that's just me, but I just found it pretty confusing. But it was good. Like the gore was good. The gore effects are fantastic in all the stories.
The gore was good. I like the effects. It doesn't look super cheesy. I appreciate that they didn't use digital blood or anything, and you can tell that this
Mm,
is a film that was on a budget, but it doesn't really hurt it. Like, you have limited cast, the sets kind of are very very simple, but it still gets the point across. It's effective for what it
yeah.
is. It's, I think a lot of the problem with this one is it maybe they could have fleshed out the story a little bit more. I really don't know.
Maybe make this one a little longer and cut down the first story a little bit because the first story did drag on a little bit. Maybe cut that down a little shorter. Give this one more time.
I'm not sure on that one. I mean, I really liked the first one. I think it was good, and between the three of us, Monty, myself, and you, we all kind of really seem to like the first story from the impression that I'm getting here. But
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe they should have just gone with a different story instead of the cam girl one. Maybe that was the problem, or just the way it was written. I'm super speculating. I'm just kind of clueless on this one.
yeah. Well, they could have probably left the cam girl one out. I'm not saying it's like a worthless story, but it's like it was definitely the weakest of the bunch.
And then, of course, the last one, which was Amanda's Revenge, which I think was also a really good one. This one deals more with, it's interesting because it opens up, there's kind of like a house party, and they kind of mislead you a little bit to where you think the girl's
Yeah.
dealing with some sort of trauma, like she got had a little bit too much to drink at a party. We don't know if she just kind of went into one of the bedrooms to sleep it off, or if somebody drugged her. But the next thing we know is some guys are being kicked out of the apartment because they're being accused of trying to take advantage of this girl, and then throughout the rest of the story she's acting really really weird. So it kind of leaves it open, like, is she dealing with trauma from the event? And then we later realize there's this really weird freaky stuff that's going on in her personal life, which apparently
Hmm.
her mom had also dealt with, which I thought was kind of weird, kind of like a hereditary thing. But this one was a lot easier to follow. I don't know, like, what were your initial thoughts on this one?
I find this one interesting because it starts out dark, like you said, with the assault, and it's really dark. But then as the story goes on, we kind of go into more like a fantastical area, like kind of fantasy. And there's some light beat parts that are just like fun and kind of like not silly, but they're kind of cool and kind of like uh there's even some heartwarming moments going on. So I found that really interesting how they were able to mix it pretty good.
I agree with that. I think this one had a lot more character development, and then they also let
Mhm.
us know, what was it, the girl in the story. I forget if the guy that was helping her out, if his name was Josh or Ryan. I'm kind of bad with names, but
Yeah.
we find out that they were like friends since elementary school. They grew up together, so they know each other. And then throughout the course of this, he doesn't really know what's going on. He's trying to help her out, and then somewhere in there we kind of realize, well, they like each other. And then they throw us a curveball where Amanda's throughout the story, we have this weird stuff that's going on, like I said, but then she starts developing these kind of like these superpowers, and all of a sudden it's kind of like she's Carrie or something.
Yeah, like that for me that kind of comes out of nowhere, which I found really random, but I don't feel like it hurts the story because the rest of the story is just so interesting, like with what's happening to her and the other factors in it. And just the characters, like you said, were really well done. I really liked all the characters. I thought all the characters in this were pretty interesting, and they could have went one route and made like certain people kind of souls when they didn't. They're actually genuine people, which I really liked. And they really flipped the script because, like you said, you think it's going to be a revenge film on these assaulters, but it's not.
Yeah, I thought that was really, I actually thought that's what the story was. But all of these, that's the running theme. It's some sort of a paranormal theme, and there's always a little twist at the end. But I like how she kind of outsmarted these supernatural beings, or
Hmm.
otherworldly beings, to where she can't film proof using like electronic devices or battery operated devices, because they always disable it. So she had to use like an old school record player to take audio, and a Super 8 camera, because it doesn't run on electricity or batteries. So that's how she managed to record these encounters, where basically it's this, I don't know if I want to say they're aliens. I'm not too quite sure if they are, but they keep taking her. I don't know why or for what reason, but I thought that was kind of cool how she figured out to do it this other way to get proof.
Oh yeah, it was cool. I do like it when she was bringing out all this equipment, and she's like, "Oh, I got this like thing from World War II I could use to record them." I thought that was cool. The one thing I'm kind of like wish they would have done is I wish the powers would have played more of a role, because she doesn't really do anything with them. Like she does like cool little tricks, but she doesn't use them to kind of fight against this threat against her, which I don't know. Maybe I get what they were going for, and I liked it. I really liked this story, but I wish there was more of that. Like I wish the powers played more of a role.
Yeah, it really did. Like they made it seem like she was going to use these abilities to fight back, and she just, it's kind of like when they show up, she's disabled. Well, that's the wrong word, but what do you call it? Like, kind of like she also goes into sort of a paralysis, like she can't fight back or she can't do anything.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But
She's
yeah,
kind of frozen.
yeah, but I think Yeah, like this one and the first one, they're definitely the two stronger stories out of the anthology. And I know
Mm.
um, in his video, Monty had also referenced that to him, this one kind of felt similar to the VHS films. Did you kind of get that vibe from it?
I did not think of that, but thinking about it, yeah, there are some similarities because there is a little bit more of just that realism to it. And when I when it first came to there and she was talking to the camera, I was like, oh God, like this is some bad acting right here. Like, oh God, no. But then as the story went on, I'm like, oh, these are just good actors. There's just a little bit of a cheesy feel to it. There's just a little bit of a, fantastical cheesy feel. So it grew on me. At first I thought I was gonna hate this segment, but I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool.
I honestly went into this thinking I wasn't going to like it because it does have that very indie feel, very minimal, but the I think the actors have enough experience to where it's not stiff robot acting. You can still kind of follow and relate to them for at least a little bit. I mean, especially the movies that have better character development. It's kind of like, especially the Amanda story. I was rooting for her. Like I wanted her to get out of this, even though I didn't exactly understand what she was going through. I just knew it was something horrible.
It was interesting for sure. It like takes you on a ride. Like you think one thing's gonna happen, nope. Then you think another thing's gonna happen, nope. But it's still the ending's still satisfying and interesting. I had fun with this segment for sure.
If I had to put them in order, obviously the wraparound, I would throw that as the last story, but I would definitely, if I had to put them in order, I would probably say I liked Amanda's Revenge, then The Hunters and the Hunted, and then I would put Cam Girls next, and then the wraparound story as far as favorite to least liked in the anthology. But I don't know, would you categorize them or give them any sort of a rating?
I think I gotta go. Maybe I think I gotta agree with um the Amanda story first for sure. Then Hunter and the Hunted. But then I would put the wraparound story as third because I feel like Cam Girls was good, but I feel like the the wraparound story was a little bit better. It could have been explained more, but I was more interested in it. And even though they did like drag it out a bit throughout the movie, and I feel like it could have been a little shorter, like at the same time I still was more intrigued with that than with the Cam Girl segment. So the Cam Girl segment had great gore.
I
Yeah.
think overall the movie was pretty good. I enjoyed it for what it was. It turned out to be a lot better than I thought it was going to be. That's for sure.
I mean, yeah, like it was very interesting. Like I still remember it from when I watch it, so that's good. Like, and I can remember some of the segments very clearly, and they did some things I had never seen before with like the wraparound segment and the last segment. I've never seen anything like that, so that's cool. Like, it's definitely a pretty good movie, worth to check out at least once for sure.
I'd say it's definitely worth a watch. What I did forget to mention for the viewers, of course, is that all of these are found footage style type short films, which I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. A lot of people don't care for found footage, but I think the style has really died down a lot. I don't see really too many being released anymore. But as far as found footage versus traditional filmmaking, do you have preference? Like, do you think this anthology would have been better if it was filmed in the traditional style, or do you think the found footage works for this?
I think the found footage worked. Like it would have been cool to see maybe like some of the stories, like the fourth one and the first one. I think would have been cool to see them in regular footage, but I think it worked very well with the found footage aspect. And I'm not a big fan of found footage, but I feel like this film worked.
I agree. I think it worked well also. And I'll be honest, originally I didn't like found footage. It took a while for the genre to grow on me, but I would say definitely for sure this film is worth a watch. I don't know if there's anything else out there similar to this, but I do love anthology stories. They're always fun and interesting
Hmm.
to take a look at. It's especially if you don't like the first story, you might like the next one. You never know. I don't know. Do you have any closing thoughts on this one, or or any other anything we didn't go over that you would want to discuss?
I hope the directors do more stuff because I feel like they had some good ideas to explore. They have some creativity.
Yeah, I would definitely want to look into this. I mean, I think it'd be interesting if I haven't verified it, but I think it'd be interesting if this were treated as a series, kind of like the VHS films. I don't know if they plan on doing more. I'll have to look into that, but I liked this one. Yeah, I agree with you on the filters. After a while, they kind of got annoying, and as a glass wearer myself, it's kind of like, you're hurting my eyes here a little bit, guys. Can you back off from using that filter so much?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all I have for this one. Once again, thank you to Monty for submitting a video and joining us with this collab. Thank you to Trenchy as well for taking the time and having a chat with our retrospective audience, as well as just kind of collaborating and sharing thoughts on this film. But I guess that is all we have for you guys for today, and we will talk to you later.